Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and welcome to part 8 of the Data Import Manager. In this particular episode, we're going to cover how we load templates into the Template Manager. We've got here, we're loading all the source data, the destination data, including all the map data, and we're going to go over how we delete templates. So we've got a lot to cover in this episode. I can't wait. Let's get started. All right, thanks again for joining us. I appreciate you sticking with us on this series. We've got a very powerful application we're building here, Data Import Manager. We're now on part 8. In last week, we covered how to save these templates, whether it's in updating the template simply by clicking on the button, or whether we're actually saving it as a new template, both covered by the same macro. So we went over that. We also went over how to display and hide these button sets accordingly. If you haven't seen that episode, I'll make sure to include that on links below. Also, first episodes 1 through 6 of this Data Manager series, that as well, I've got links there below. So if you haven't, you'll want to go from the beginning. We're building a very powerful application. You can download this free. I'll include the links in the description below, just as we do with every single one of my videos. In fact, we've got a brand new training each and every Tuesday. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below and make sure to click the notifications icon bell so you can get notified for each and every brand new training. I'm hard at work on some brand new courses for you. Of course, we have, if you want to get 100 of these workbooks, we've got that just for $37. So if you get a chance, pick that up. That is the 100 workbook zip pack. I think you'll really love that. We also, if you love learning Excel, we have the Ultimate Excel for Freelancers resource guide. That's 1,000 resources, and the Excel dashboard masterclass, how to create amazing single-click dashboards. That as well, that's available. I've got a $50 coupon off right now. Depends on when you click on that, so make sure you click on it soon to see if that coupon's still available. Also working on the mentorship program. We're going to teach you how to define, design, develop, and deploy your own Excel application. So that's going to be an amazing training coming up just very soon, working on that. All right, let's get started with the training. Last week, we went over how to update the template. Now what I want to do is I want to show you how we're going to load these templates. All we've got to do is simply make a change, and we're going to load that template. So we're going over in the macro. Regardless of what we choose, we are going to select the macro that automatically loads this template. That's going to be based on a change on F2. So let's go into the VBA and take a look at this macro and see exactly how we get all of that data to load. Now we've got a couple different tables. We've got the import template. That's going to cover all of our import information. That includes the template number, the template name, all of the source information, as well as all the destination information. That's going to come across. And then if we also want to add the map data format. Now I added a few things since last week. We've now got this information, the source information. We're going to be loading that in as well in column A and B. So we've got that saved. So I did add that on. We added that particular on, and the information that comes from the data mapping, when we load it, when we load this information, where does it come from? It comes from a data mapping database sheet right here. And just since the last training, I added on these two columns, destination column and source column. These are going to be brought over into this column right here. They're all based on our template number. Select the template number, and that is in N3 right here. Each template has a unique number. As you'll notice here in our template database, template numbers are distinct and unique. Same with our data mapping. They are all tracked by template numbers. So you can see here template number 5, 2, or 1, they're automatically definitely sorted here and automatically added here within the data mapping. And I'll show you how we do that, and also how we're going to go over how we delete templates too. We're going to cover those two macros. So we've got a lot to cover in this episode. And then next week, make sure you catch that. We are going to be focused on automation. We're going to automate this process. Maybe you want a template to run every week. Maybe you want it to run every month. Maybe you want to import it automatically from one folder into another folder automatically. Maybe you want to import into one folder from one folder to another folder automatically. So we're going to show you how that can happen while you sleep. So I can't wait to get to show you where that's going to be next week. That may be our final episode on this, unless I can think of anything more, or you can let me know if there's something you want to see in this. We can add that on. If not, we'll finish this up and get started on our next application, our next series, or perhaps it'll just be a single, depending upon. I think I want to do something with AppSheet. That's an amazing mobile application. Bring that into Excel. That can be exciting. Maybe more on inventory. Inventory seems to be very popular. You guys like inventory. Of course, inventory is going to be part of our Excel accounting application that we're going to be in our mentorship program. So make sure you join up to that mentorship program when it launches in a few weeks, because we're going to build an entire accounting application. And that's going to teach you how to use chart of accounts, general ledger, invoicing, inventory, dashboards. We're going to cover customers. We're going to cover purchase orders, full user, admin and security, multi-user. I mean, we're going to cover everything. And what you're going to do is you're going to be able to take pieces of this and plug them into your own applications. And then you're going to be able to sell those own applications. I'm going to go beyond Excel. I'm going to teach you how to create websites, how to post your applications on websites, how to get them downloaded automatically, purchased, version control. Oh my goodness. It's going to take months. It's not going to be quick, but it's going to be extremely valuable. It'll be one of the best courses you've ever taken. All right, so let's get into the VBA editor under the Developers tab, go into the Visual Basic. We're going to focus again on just one macro, one module here, and start out with one macro. That macro is going to be called Template Macros. Now, in in part 7, we covered Update Template, Save Update. This is used for both existing and new templates. So we've covered that. We covered Clear Template Load and Clear Template. So we got those in part 7. Now we're going to move on to Load Template, and then we're going to go back to Delete Template. So first, Load Temp. What we want to do is we want to make sure to clear it out. Before we load it on, I want to clear any existing fields out. So I want to make sure all the source data is cleared. I want to make sure all the destination is cleared. For the map data, and if there's any import and summary here, details here, I want to make sure all that is cleared out. When a user selects a specific template, that's when I want to load it. So of course, it's going to be changed on F2. Now, if we look over here into N7, I've got a formula there, and that formula is going to tell me what row. So the important thing is I need to know what row. If they select template test 4, I need to know that's on row 6, because we've got to load all the data from row 6. So the important thing is we need to know what row. Now, if you remember in part 7, we created a named range for the template name, and if we're into the formulas name manager and we look under the template name, we'll see that we have an offset dynamic named range, and that's going to focus on the template name. Notice that it starts in 4. 4 is the first row. So if a user selects template 1, I want to return row 4, even though it's going to be the first value in there. So it's going to return 1. If we do an index or a match, it's going to return 1, but I want to get 4. 4 is what I'm looking for if they've selected template 1. So we're going to add 3 to that. So that's what we do in this. You've seen this before. So we're going to use match. What are we matching? F2. What is F2? Well, that is the name. That is the name that the user enters. And we're going to use template name. We're going to look it up in our lookup array template name, that dynamic named range. We want an exact match, so in this match it's going to be 0. Then I'm going to add 3, because if they select the first one on the list, this is going to return 1, but we need row 4, so we're adding 3. If there's an error, we're going to return just empty cells, so that's going to help us. So that will get us our row number. So in case this is the second one on the list, it's going to tell us row 5. If they select the first one, of course, it's going to return 4. We need to know that row. We need to make sure it's not blank. So the first thing, part of our macro, is we want to make sure of a few things. We want to make sure, of course, that F2 is not blank, but more importantly, we want to make sure that N7 is not blank. If it's blank, then we know we either have an error or there's non-existent. So that N7 is the cell we want to make sure that there's a value in. So we're going to start off our macro checking that to make sure. First, we're going to clear any existing templates. We went over this macro last time. All this macro does is it goes up here and it clears everything here, but the only thing it doesn't clear is F2. Why don't we want to clear F2? F2 is where our name is. That's the name the user just entered, so we want to make sure not to clear out F2. F2 must remain, because it is this cell that's going to tell us what row, based on the formula here, what row we need to pull all the template information from. So that row is key, so that's key. So we need to keep that there in F2 template 1, so we need that value. Moving on, so we've cleared out all the values of our existing template, and next up in our macro, we can then check if N7 is empty. N7 is where our row is. If that is empty, take a look at that right here once again. If N7 is empty, we know that there's no associated row with this particular name, and we can exit the sub. You can also probably put in a message box, something like message box, please select a correct template. You can do that as well, so that the user has a warning template. End quotes, exit the sub, and then end if. We can do that as well. So this way the user at least gets an understanding that they've entered something that's wrong. So now if we were to enter an incorrect value, we're going to at least get this error, please select a correct template. That can be helpful too. So when they select a correct one, it actually loads properly. Okay, so next up within our lines of code, now that we know that we actually have a value, we can move on. N6 equals true. We want to set N6. We're going to set the template load to true. When I load all this information in, there's certain things that I don't want to happen. So I'm going to set N6 to true, and at the end of the macro, we're going to set it back to false. But during this macro, we're going to make lots of changes to cells, right? We're loading information into there. So we don't want anything to happen. What do I mean by anything else? Well, I don't want certain things to happen, like in certain things, we're going to load the template, we're going to get source data, we're going to get destination. So there's macros that run when we make changes. Like if we make a change to I9, we want to get the source data. Let me show you what that means. So when we make a change to the source workbook, we want something to happen. What do I want to happen? I want to get this data here. I want to get the first row of data. I want to get that automatically through a macro. So we're making a change to I9, right? But I want to differentiate between these changes. One, the changes where the user actually makes a change, and the other change is when the user is actually loading. So when the user loads a template, the kind of change to this sheet, I don't want to run the macro. So I need to differentiate between the change in which a user loads a template or when the user is actually making a change to a worksheet here. So we want to make sure that that is definitely understandable so we can differentiate between those two changes. So we use that specific true or false here in the code, N6 value, true or false. If it's true, then we're not going to get the source data. If it's true, that means the template is loading. So that type of change, I don't want to get the source data. The same thing with the destination. There are macros that run on I29 change or I9 change. And I only want those macros to run when a user's actually making a change to those cells just by that one. But when the template is loading, that type of change, I don't want that. So that's why I use N6. That's why I use N6, because it goes to true when the template's loading and it goes back to false. So that's why in the template load, we set N6 to true. So keep that in mind. That's helpful. I use that a lot, that type. So we're going to set N6 here in the template load. We're going to set N6 to true while we do all this, and then we're going to set it back to false. All right, so that's why we do it. Next up, we want to set the template column from 1 to 27. Those are all the data information. That's the map data. We'll go over that again, but I think you kind of understand if you see my episode. 1, starting in column 1 here, all the way to column 27. What I'm going to do is we need to get the row. First, we're going to get the row, set row 7, row 6, or whatever, row 5. Then I want to place this value. Let's see column 1 or column 2. I want to place this value, but where do I want to place it? As we go from column 1, column 2, column 3, running that loop, we're going to take this data and we want to place it somewhere. I want to place it somewhere right here, right, somewhere on this sheet. But where do I want to place it? I need to get a cell that I'm going to place it here. So we use data mapping for that. What cell? Well, that cell is going to be right here in row 1. F2. If I want to place this false, I'm going to place it in B2. So on this loop, I'm going to take whatever is in row 1 and the column, whatever column we're on, and I'm going to take this data, I'm going to place it in E8. I'm going to take this data, I'm going to place it in E9, take this product and place it in I9. So that's how we use it. So we're going to run that loop. So I need to start the loop from 1 to 27, which is all of the columns in this. So we're going to do that starting with this loop right here, 1 to 27, and we're going to go through, and it's basically just one line of code, but I want to make sure that I want to skip 2, right? I don't want to load the name. The name's already loaded. I just don't want to load the name. If you look here, right, F2 is the template name, but the user's already entered the name. We don't need to enter that again. That's the only thing we don't need to change. If I do change it, it could provide a non-stop loop. So if the column is 2, we're just going to skip that. So we can do that with just that line of code. If temp columns 2, then go to skip name. What that's going to do is just going to skip this line of code and go right to here, go to the next. So this line of code it's all we need to add the data to our sheet. So it's going to loop through this. Let's go through this. Let's tab this over. It's going to take this loop and it's going to do this. Sheet 2, row 1, temporary column, the value. What is this value? What is the value? That value is the cell value, right? That value is going to be the cell address. So that value is going to be F2, B2, E8, E9. So, and then sheet 1 F2, sheet 1 B2, sheet 1 E8. That's going to describe whatever specific cell is on this sheet 1. And what do we want to do? What I want to do is I want to say sheet 1 E8 equals sheet 2, whatever row and whatever column we're on. So it would be row 7 or whatever row and whatever column. Then we're going to continue through the loop adding each one of those. So that's all that line of code is. Sheet 2 here, the value of row 1, which is the cell address. This is dot range, meaning with sheet 1 here, we've already defined sheet 1. So sheet 1 range and whatever the cell address is equals sheet 2, whatever row, whatever the template row is, and whatever the template column we're moving forward. So this is going to loop through 27 different times, except for when it's column 2. And it's going to continue to go through the loop, adding all of the data. So that's a great little trick. So we've got data mapping. Now what I want to do is I want to load the map. So all we need to do, this is going to load all of the data. This 3 lines of code or few lines of code here is going to add all of the data to our template, and that's going to include all of our source data and all of our destination data. It's going to add all of that plus a few of the values here in defaults and things like that. So it's going to add all that. But what about the map data? The map data is a table, so we're going to need to bring that in separately, and that's going to come from our data mapping table. Because it's a dynamic table, so we don't know a number of rows, so that's going to be stored separately, but it must be linked with a template number. Has to be linked with a template number, so that's very important. We covered that when we're in the last one, when we save or update our templates. We saw how we put the template number in here, but now I need to take this template and bring it back. So the idea is this. If we've loaded template, let's say template number 1, I want to run an advanced filter. I want to put the template number as a criteria right here. Then what I want to do is I want to have the results, all of the results of that filter show up right here. Then I'm going to take this information and I'm going to put it back into our templates here. So all the information here, including the database row numbers, including the abbreviation values, and then of course also this information here, the column and the source information. Now when we select a drop-down list, it exists, so we want that information in here, including the filtering information. I want to bring all that into the table. So we're going to do that in VBA. So load mapping data. The first thing I want to do is I want to get the last map row of sheet 5. Sheet 5 is our database for our mapped data. Sheet 5, A and XLF row. That's going to get us the last row. The last row in this case would be 26. So we need to get that last row because when I run an advanced filter, including the headers, I'm going to run that advanced filter with all of our data, use this as criteria, AA2 through AA3, and then run our results all the way from AC2 through AN2. So this is where our results are going to go. We use that with just one line of code, advanced filter. The only thing I want to make sure of is I want to make sure there's actual data in the map here. So we do need to check that to make sure there's actual data. If there's no data, we'd want to skip. So if the last data map row is less than 3, that means there's no map data. We don't need to continue on. There's no data, so we can skip it. What we'll do is we're going to skip all that and go to no map data, which is right down here. No map data here. So that's all we would need to do. And we continue down. We don't want to set the mapping to true because there's no mapping that's been done if there's no data. Moving along, sheet 5 AC, we want to clear any previous results. Let's put results here, results. I want to clear any previous results, AC3 to AN. That's of sheet 5. So what that is right here, AC3 through AN and all the way down. I want to clear any previous results. So we make sure that when we run our advanced filter, we only have accurate results, not any previous results. So it's very important to clear out any old data before we run that advanced filter. Sheet 5, .range A3 value, I need to put the template number in here for our criteria. And that's going to come all the way from sheet 2A in the template row. We're going to take this information right here, whatever template row we're on, template A, column A, whatever template number, bring this number, in this case it's 1, bring this 1 and bring it in right in here and place it right in AA3. That's our criteria, so we need to know the template number. So we do that with that line of code. Next up, sheet 5, we're ready for our advanced filter. Starting in A2, that's our header. We must include the headers all the way through L. All the way through L. We need to bring in all of that data, so that's going to start in A2 here, all the way through L and all the way down. That's the range of our advanced filter where we're going to run our filter. So then next up, we're going to cover our criteria. Our criteria, or we're going to copy that information over. I don't want to filter it in place. I want to copy it over to a new location. Then our criteria range is going to be AA2 through AA3. We just went over that. That is going to include the template number. Next up, we're ready to set the results. Where do we want the results to be displayed? I want them to be displayed in AC2 through AN2. That is going to cover all of our headers, where our results. And then I want unique to be true. This could be true or false. We could probably make this false just in case there's some kind of duplicates. If there's a duplicate, we would still want to include that. Maybe there's a duplicate column for some reason, so we would want to include duplicates. Next up, we want to find the last row of the results. Our results are going to be right here. I need to know the last result row. In this case, it's 10. So we need to use AND XL up to find the last row. And of course, if the last row is less than 3, then we could skip that. It means there's no results. So we do need to run a check to make sure that the last result is greater than or equal to 3 and not less than 3. So that's the first thing we want to do. The last data map row is sheet 5, AC and XL up. That's the last results row. If last data map results row is less than 3, then go to no map data. We're going to skip it in case there's no data. Next up, for the data map row equals 3 to the last results row. So we're going to run a loop through every row of our results. I really need to run that loop, and the first important thing is I need to know what row to put that on. So I need to know what row, the map row. I'm going to take this information, right, and I want to place it right in here, but I need to know what row. Where does product ID go? Does it go in 65? Where does product type? So I need to know what row to place them in. So we keep that row, we save that row, and that row is going to go right here, 65, 66. So I need to get this row so I know what row to place it on sheet 1. So the first thing I want to do is define the map row is in AL and whatever the results. So we're going to loop through this all the way from 3 to last, and we're going to get the map row, get the row, so we know where to place it in, what row to place it here. So we do that with this line of code. The map row is equal to sheet 5, AL is the column I just showed you, and the data map row. That is the map row. Now we have that map row. That's very important. The database map row is sheet 5, AJ. This is the original data map row. This, don't get confused between the rows because we need all of them. I also need to know the original row, right? If we're filtering, let's say product ID, our first row, what row is this? This is row 19, right? I want to keep track. I want to bring that 19 and I want to place it right here. So that way, if the user makes a change to this, I know what original row to change. So I'm going to bring this, of course, it's going to be hidden. So I want to know the 19 and I want to bring it right here, because if they change this, make a change to do not import, and then they update the template, I want to know to make sure that we update row 19 so that 19 gets changed to do not update. So that I want to know that, and so that also, that 19 is in AJ. I want to keep track of the database row as well. That's in AJ, so we're going to record that into a variable right here. The database map row equals sheet 5 AJ. That is the original database map row, so that's important. If the map row goes to map row equals 0, then go to next map row. We want to make sure that we actually have a value before we move on, because we're going to need that map row just in case it's 0 or it was deleted. We want to make sure that there is a value so that we don't create any bugs. So now we can bring our data over. D through I in the map row equals D through I equals AD through AI. What is that? Let's bring that over. Let's bring that over. D, here's D in the map row, through I in the map row equals what? Equals right here, AD through AI. AD through AI. So I'm going to bring this information right here and bring it right into here. That's the first thing we are going to do. What are we going to do next? Next up, we're going to take K through L. K through L is going to equal AJ through AK. K through L is going to equal AJ through AK. K through L, 19. So these two values, 19 and G, are going to come from where? Come from right here. 19G, AJ through AK. I want to bring that information up. And the last thing I'm going to do is bring this destination column, AM through A, and I'm going to bring that over. I'm going to place it right here in A and B right here. So that's the last line of code right here. A through B of the map row equals AM through AN. So that brings our source column information. So those 3 lines of code will bring all the information over, and we're just going to run a loop, do that for every row in the results, and that brings all of our map data in. Then we're going to set the mapping complete to true. Now we've brought all of our mapping information, and we brought all of our information, so the data is mapped. We are ready. We need to set this to true so we know the data is actually mapped and ready to go. We use that variable to know that the mapping is correct, because we don't want to run a report unless the mapping is not correct. So we use B61 to say, okay, yes, the user has mapped the data. They've completed that step. So we use B61 to let the user know that that has been done. So B61 contains our mapping complete true. So we'll set that to true. Then we know the mapping's been imported. Next up, we're going to set N6 to false. That is the changes that we make. So N6 is what I described to you before, so that we know when we're making changes manually to a specific cell or when we're loading the template, those types of changes. We want to differentiate between those two types of changes. We're going to set the button set. These are the button sets that are for our template. We want to know it's an existing template now. So the save template button, this button that is only displayed for new template, gets hidden, and the button set, the 3 button sets for existing, gets displayed. What is that? Let's just review that. These 3 buttons, this 3 button sets gets displayed. The name of this button set is existing template group. So I want to display that because this is an existing template. And for existing templates, we have 3 options. We can update the template, we can clear the template, or we can delete the template. However, if we have a new template, we only have one option. And all we have is when we clear a template out, we have just one option, to save a template. So this button, the save template button, gets hidden because this is only used for new templates, Once we select a template and we load that, we want that button to disappear, and we want the 3 button sets, the existing templates, to show up. So those 2 lines of code do that. They hide one and they show the other. So we've got that there. All right, that is covered. Now we've covered load templates. That's how we load the templates. It's not too difficult. We just we use our map data to run our loop, and then we run an advanced filter for our mapping data based on the template number. Then we run a loop through our results, and we bring all of that information into our mapped data right here. So that's the review of how we bring that information in. All right, great. So let's do another thing. Let's show you how we delete templates. Now, deleting templates, I want to make sure that we're not, when we delete a template, we want to make sure we delete this one, the row here, but I also want to delete any associated templates here. I want to delete these. Now, if I delete these rows, it's going to create a problem. I want to delete the results as well. So what I'm going to do is we're going to run another, just like we did here, we're going to run another advanced filter. So we're going to put the 5 here. We're going to delete number 5 right now. I'm going to put the 5 here. Then I'm going to run advanced filter so only those 5s appear here. Then we're going to determine what is the original database row. So for example, if it's row 19, we are going to clear the contents of row 19. I'm just going to clear the contents. I'm going to clear all the rows. I like clearing contents in this case because when we delete it changes the row numbers and we have to go in reverse order, so it's a little bit confusing. So we'll just clear it all out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a sort. I'm going to run another sort. In fact, I should probably run the sort ascending and not descending. Now I've got it on descending, but it's okay. Either way, it's good, but we'll probably add it to descending. I'll show you both ways. So all we're going to do is we're going to clear the contents, and then we're going to run a sort, which is going to resort the data and get rid of the cleared lines. So that's what we're going to do in the delete. So if I take a look at going to the data, and we select test 5, and now we click delete template, we get the pop-up that says, are you sure you want to delete this template? We click yes, and now we'll go over, we'll see that the import template, that the template's already gone here, the main information. And now we'll see also that the data mapping template 5 has been removed from all the data mapping. There's no longer a 5. And we'll see that the previous criteria was 5 and all this is the previous results and got removed. So that works really well. Let me show you exactly how we went and did that. So taking in back into our VBA, we'll take a look, and into the macro we'll scroll up and we'll see delete template. That's the macro we're going to be focusing on. We want to set the template row as long. I need to know what the row we're deleting. That's important. And I also need to know what template we're focused on. So the template number, we want to put that into a variable as well. Data map row, that is the row that we're going to be mapping. So I want to keep track of the row. And the database map row, the actual database, the database map row, we are going to cover here in our database. I want to know what row in this case that we need to clear out. So we'll keep track of the database row as well. The last data map row, because we're going to be running advanced filter on all of our map database, so I need to know the last row so we can run our advanced filter. The last row of the results, once we get our advanced filter, we're going to have the last row of our results. We'll need to loop through that, so I need to get the last row of that. And the data mapping database row, we need that also. All right, the first thing I want to do is give the user a choice, the message box. Are you sure you want to delete? If their answer is no, giving it a title, the pop-up title, delete template. If it's no, then we're going to exit the sub, so we can give the user the option to delete. And if they say no, we're going to exit out of the sub without proceeding any further. Focus primarily in this first part with sheet 1. So with sheet 1, if N4, which is our data, which is our template row, is empty, or N3 is empty, then exit the sub. We want to ensure that there's a template row and a template number. We need both of those, the template row and the template number, or we simply cannot delete it. Next up, template number is going to be N3 and template row is going to be N4. We're going to put those into variables using those two lines of code. Next up, we can then delete the entire row. In sheet 2 is our template, delete the entire row. What that's going to do is go into sheet 2, which is right here, and it's going to, whatever template is here, it's going to delete the entire row because we've got that set up. So we can delete the row. So that's fine in that case. Deleting is fine. We don't have an advanced filter on that page, so we can delete it. It's not going to affect anything else. Next, in our line of code, we're ready to focus on our mapped data. I want to remove all of the mapped data right here into the DAP. So we need to do that running our advanced filter, putting that template number, running our advanced filter, determining what the rows are, and then clearing those out, clearing those rows out, clearing the data out, then running a sort. That's what we're going to do. So the last map data row, I need to know the last row of data so that we can run our advanced filter. In this case, the last row would be 18, but you never know, it's a variable, so we will get the last row. So we get that last row. If it's less than 3, we're going to skip it. We can't run an advanced filter if we don't have actual data, so we need to skip all that and go right here if there is no data. We're ready to run our advanced filter. We do want to set the criteria actually before, and we want to clear the contents. So the two things, I want to clear the contents of any previous values, just as we always do when we run advanced filters. We want to clear the results. So I'm going to take any results that were here and clear them out. So just delete all that, making sure starting in AC3 all the way to AN, clearing out those values, AC3 to AN, clearing that. AC3 is we're going to put our template number to run our advanced filter. We need criteria. So that criteria is going to go right here, and that'll be the template number in AA3. Puts there. Now that we have that, we can get our results and put them in here. So we've got that, and we're ready to run our advanced filter. It's going to start with the headers of our main database, just as we always run, and go all the way to column L and the last data. This is our range that we're going to be running the advanced filter on. Setting that range to advanced filter, we're going to copy it to a new location. And we're going to set the criteria. In this case, it's just going to be that template number. AA2, AA3 is the header and the template. That'll set our criteria so we know what advanced filter to run. We're going to copy all of that information over to range AC2 through AN, AC2 through AN. That's going to copy everything to that advanced filter. So we do that, and then we also want unique true. Probably change this to false too, just in case there's some identical rows, we might want them. Next up, I want to get the last row. We need to, if we're going to be deleting rows, we need to get the last row. I need to loop through the results, looping through the results, starting in 3 and going all the way to the last row, in this case 10. If the last row is less than 3, we can skip deleting anything because there is no results. So we want to check for that inside the loop. The last data map results row would be AC using column. That's our template number. That column and XL up is going to get us the last row of data for those results. If the last map results row is less than 3, then go to no map data. We're going to skip this and go all the way to no map data because there's nothing else to do if there's no map data. Now we're ready to run our loop. Starting in the first row of our results and going to the last row of our results, we're going to run a little loop. The database, I need to get the row. What row do we need to know what row we're going to be clearing out. That row is here. 3, 4, 5, 6. So that row, we need to know what row so we know what row here to clear out. 10, 3. So once we get the row, we can then clear this data out. So we need to get that row. That row is located in column AJ. So we do that with just this line of code. The database map row equals sheet 5 AJ in the data map row. That's the original database map row. If for some reason that's 0, non-existent, then go to the next map row. That'll skip this line of code right here and go right to here. This is the line of code that's going to clear our information out. Column A through column L in the database map row, we're going to clear the contents. I'm not deleting the row, I'm just clearing the contents out. That's another way to remove data, clear the contents out and not delete the row. So we've done all of that. We've gone through that loop, and now what we have is probably a bunch of lines and tables that are cleared out. So now we have just a bunch of rows that are clear, but I really want to get rid of any lines that would be clear here and have a nice compact table database with no rows that are completely clear. So we can use that using a sort. That'll clear. That's one way to do that. We can use that with a sort. So we're going to sort this. First, I want to clear any sorts that might be present. And next up, with that specific sort, we are going to do something. We're going to set the key. In fact, let me make this ascending. And so we're going to set it ascending so that the lowest value is at the top. And we're going to do that on A2. That is going to be our template. I want to sort it by template number so that I can have the oldest templates. So I can have the earliest templates at the top and the latest templates at the bottom because they're consecutive order. Next up, set the range. What is our sort range? Starting in A2 all the way to L in the last data map row. That is going to set our sort. So our sort is going to start at A2 and all the way through L and the last row, and it's going to sort all of that data. So we have the last data map row. We've already defined that. In fact, we are including our header, so we want to make sure, and then we'll apply that sort. Once we're done with the sort, then all of those blank rows are going to be removed, and that's easy. We can then clear the template out. After deleting, I want to make sure there's no other data in our form here. I want to make sure there's no data here. So I want to clear all of this data out, any of the source data, so that the user has a chance to do two things. They can either create a new template by entering information, or they can select from existing template. Notice that the template is gone here because our dynamic named range based on this is based on the data. Named range data validation, you'll see that this template name. So as these names grow or increase, so does this named range. So we have that there, so the user can do that. So we've deleted it, and I want to run the macro that clears everything out. So clear template macro is right up here, and that basically clears all the values, sets all the defaults, and gets all of that information ready. And of course, it also changes the button sets where we have the saved button template. We want that new button template, new button to displayed, and then the existing template, those 3 button sets, I want those hidden because those are only used for existing. All right, so we've got the delete template. We've covered that. We've covered the sort field. Then I want the temp deleted message. The deleted message, that's a fade out message. Let's take a look at that. Into our module called fade out messages, we have another fade out message called delete, where we are going to run a timer, and that gives it a fade out message, although it didn't really affect it, and that's because I've combined it. Probably shouldn't have done that, but I kind of like the icon. But if you mix it with an icon, let me show you what I mean. If you mix this deleted button, let's go into the shapes, and we'll look at the deleted template by selecting and displaying it, and then scrolling over. We can close this now. You see I've combined it with that icon. I kind of like that, but if there's not going to be a fade out because I've grouped them together. So if I remove that, and we'll see now that we got to rename, we have to rename that sheet. So let's look at that. What is that name? That is called template deleted. That is the shape name we want to make sure to use. So that is going to give us more of a fading effect because it's not combined with any other thing. So we can then actually give it a name. Let's rename that because it's now non-grouped. And now when we delete a template, we're gonna have a little bit more of a fade effect, which is what I'm looking for. So we'll take test 4. Let's hide this first so that we can actually show it. So we're gonna hide it just by unclicking here, closing this out. Now when we delete the template and we say yes, we'll see more of a fade out effect. There we go. It's kind of quick, but now it's more of a fade out effect. But if you don't want the fade out effect, you just want to have the button with the icon, you can do that as well. You've got multiple different options here. All right, great. I'm so glad I got to show you how to load templates and how to delete templates, because that's really, really important. Next up on our training, we are going to add in the ability to make this recurring. I'm going to be working on that very soon. So I want to show you how to make these templates recurring so that we can have multiple templates and then they automatically reoccur at certain times. You may want a specific template to run every month or every week or every 6 months. So this is going to put it on automatic, and then we're going to show you how to open this application automatically as well, and how to basically create these imports automatically while you sleep. So that's really exciting. We're going to get to that. We're not going to have no more than 10 on this series, maybe only 9 depending upon your suggestions. So if there is anything you want to see in this data import manager, now is the time to make those suggestions. You can put those suggestions in our group. You can put them in comments below in YouTube. I read every comment. I respond to every comment every day. So I want to make sure you are important to me. You're the reason why we do these trainings. So I really appreciate all your help. And if you'd like to see these trainings free, trying to help us out with some of the products, we've got some really amazing products. Or if you want, just hang on and I'll have that mentorship program ready for you soon so you can create your own application. Thanks so much for joining us. A little bit shorter training today, just 45 minutes, but that's okay. Give you a little break and not so I don't talk as long. All right, thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Have a great day.